once you know the skill on how to do this, it's just like anything else. Like, once you know how to do it, you can do it with your eyes open as well as your eyes closed, and you can turn some of those very strong chemicals that we become like addicts. It's a drug. The arousal of the stress hormones. People start to become very dependent on them, and they use the problems and conditions in their life to reaffirm this emotional need to feel these chemicals, and that means they become addicted to the life they don't even like. The hardest part about change is not making the same choices you did the day before. And the moment you decide to make a different choice, get ready. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be unfamiliar. It's going to be unpredictable. There's going to be some uncertainty. You're leaving the known, biologically, neurologically, chemically, hormonally, genetically. You're stepping into a river, to cross a river to become somebody else. And when people really start understanding that their personality creates their personal reality, and your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel, that means then the present personality who's listening to this show has created the present personal reality called their life. And if you want to create a new life, a new personal reality, you got to change your personality. That means you got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. Become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors, and notice them, and look at the emotions that you live by every single day that keep you connected to the past, and decide, do these emotions belong in my future? And I think most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. But when people really begin to understand that they can rewire their brain, they can make new neurochemistry, they can make new hormones, they can signal new genes. I mean, it all of a sudden, when they start becoming a different person, then they don't have to visualize anything. They don't have to see the tumor shrinking. The disease existed in the old person. They're somebody else. And it does require unlearning. It does require breaking the habit of being yourself. Yeah. It does require a certain level of energy and awareness. It requires lighting a match in a dark place and sitting in that discomfort and not getting up and checking your cell phone or getting on the phone or watching TV or being distracted by in your computer. This is you got to be willing to know that you got to sit in that discomfort, because that's what people are running from all the time. So the person who's going to say, no, you know what, I'm really insecure, or I live in fear, or whoa, I feel really empty. Now, this is the moment. This is a defining moment for people, because now they're saying, okay, I got to believe that there's something else here. And I think when you believe in yourself, you believe in possibilities, and when you believe in possibilities, you believe in yourself. So people start taking their power back in a very unique way, and they go all in. They go all in, and they understand then. And I think science has become the contemporary language of mysticism. I think science is what demystifies the mystical, and so and this is a time in history where it's not enough to just know. It's a time in history to know how.
Yes.
And that's for me the most important thing. I love being with people that want to put it to the test. And when you do, I'm always astounded by how unlimited human beings are. And you can't tell me you're too old to do this. We have people in their 80s in our work that have brain scans that will blow your mind. You can't tell me you're too sick to do this. We have people that have been really sick that turn that thing around. You can't tell me you had a turbulent past. There are people that have had brutal pasts that are happy, healthy, well-adjusted people. You can't tell me you're too overweight, too underweight. You can't. I've seen it in all shapes, sizes, and it's an amazing thing, because once you start reasoning it and you start thinking about it, it does make sense. And when it starts making sense to people, then they can begin to assign more meaning behind what they're doing and put more intention behind it. And one of the things that has to happen is that you can't control the outcome. In other words, it's not going to happen the way you think it should, because that's a known. You got to be open to having it happen in a way that you can't predict. And that means you got to lay down the very thing you use your whole life to get what you want for something greater to occur. And that's something we have to work on as well. But step by step, people make these brilliant changes by changing their identity. I now know that if you give people sound scientific information, and every time we learn something new, we make new connections in our brain. I mean, research shows that 1 hour of focused concentration on a concept or an idea doubles the number of connections in your brain. that you have physical evidence. You're installing new hardware. Now, I now know if you can build a model of understanding with people, and then the next step is to have them turn to the person next to them and explain it. If they can't explain it, then it's not wired in their brain, and they're going to doubt it's possible. Once they start developing this model, they're making their brain fire in new sequences, new patterns, and new combinations. And whenever you make your brain work differently, changing your mind, because mind is the brain in action. So then as they're able to build this model and repeat it, they're installing their neurological hardware in their brain in preparation for an experience. And the more you understand what you're doing and why, the how gets easier. So then if you can set up the conditions in the environment and give people the proper instructions, and certain percentage of those people are going to get their behaviors to match their intentions. They're going to get their actions equal to their thoughts. They're going to get their mind and body working together. And when they do, they're going to have a profound experience. Now, experience further enriches the circuitry in your brain. That's what experience does. It enhances circuitry. And the end product of an experience is an emotion. Now, all of a sudden, you start to feel unlimited. You start to feel inspired. You start to feel abundant. You start to feel empowered. Whatever the feeling is, now you're teaching your body emotionally to understand what your mind is intellectually understood. So knowledge is for the mind and experiences for the body. And in that moment, you're beginning to embody the truth of that philosophy, that theory. And you're literally signaling new genes in new ways. The body's getting new information. And that new information is what's selecting and instructing the gene. And genes make proteins. And proteins are responsible for the structure and function of your body. And the expression of proteins is the expression of life. So all of a sudden, you make new hormones, new enzymes. You make new tissue. The body's, you're beginning to become the very thing that, that you're putting your attention on. Now, if you've done it once, you should be able to do it again. And if you can repeat an experience over and over again, you're going to neurochemically condition your mind and body to begin to work as one. And we've done something so many times that your body now knows how to do it as well as your mind. Now it's innate in you. It's automatic. It's second nature. It's a skill. It's a habit. It's who you become. It's who you are. Now you're beginning to master that philosophy. You're embodying it. You're owning it. So I think we go from philosopher to initiate to master, from mind to body to soul, from knowledge to experience to wisdom, to thinking to doing to being, to learning it with your head, applying it with your hands, and knowing it by heart. And people have to come to a point where they all of a sudden realize that they're a participant in this whole thing. And even if the person says, if they accept, hey, look, I don't know that I can beat this thing, but at least I can live the next several years of my life happy. It makes a huge difference. And so people who are depressed because of a diagnosis, then they can't think greater than how they feel. And that's the challenge. When feelings become the means of thinking, or we can't think greater than how we feel, then for the most part we're thinking in the past. And we've studied brains during the transformational process. And we see that when you start analyzing your life within some disturbing emotion, and it's typically derived by the hormones of stress, that 100% of the time, the analysis is going to make your brain worse. It's going to drive it more out of balance. Teach a person how to get beyond the emotion. The memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. And now you're no longer anchored to the past. The body's free. I think insight is important, but insight never changes behavior. You can, I don't care what the insight is. Your father was overbearing. Your mother was a perfectionist. You have a chemical imbalance in your brain. Mercury's in retrograde. You were this person in a past life. All the insight, all the information does not change the condition. We have to get into the operating system. We have to get into those programs, those emotional reactions, those unconscious beliefs, those unconscious habits, and begin to reprogram that. And there's a way to do that, because the whole purpose of meditation is to get beyond the analytical mind. And what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. And the only way you're going to know how to do that is to learn how to regulate your brainwaves and begin to slow them down. So as you begin to slow down your brainwaves, you get beyond your analytical mind, and you're entering that operating system where all those programs exist. And 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old, it's a set of memorized behaviors, unconscious emotional reactions, unconscious beliefs, perceptions, hardwired attitudes that function automatically like a computer program. That means that 95% of the time people are unconscious to how they're being, right? And And so becoming conscious of that, overcoming, even if you just say every day I'm gonna overcome my fear, every day I'm gonna overcome my depression, every day I'm gonna feel better than yesterday. That act of doing that you're informing the system, you're putting new information into your body that's causing your body maybe slowly every day to begin to change. And of course some days are easier than others, but I have so much hope in that because I think that's innate in us. I think that's what we naturally know what to do when we're challenged to that measure. There are two very important windows that open up that allow your body and your brain to be more suggestible to information. And that is when you wake up in the morning, your brain waves go from very slow delta to theta to alpha to beta. And when you go to bed at night, you go from beta to alpha to theta to delta. So you slide up the scale when you wake up, and you slide down the scale when you go to bed at night. And most people, when they go to bed at night, they just go from beta, boom, right down the delta. They fall very quickly. But you can teach people then how to just sit and slow everything down and begin to visualize, begin to affirm, begin to change their thoughts, to begin to work with their body. When they wake up in the morning, when they go to bed at night. And it seems, according to our research, that those changes can last for hours. A person feels better. They don't feel as stressed. They don't feel as imbalanced. They don't feel as incoherent. They're not worrying as much. They're not obsessing as much. They're not over-focused about something as much. Those are beautiful windows when we wake up in the morning and when we go to bed at night.